Stand by.
Loading. Loading complete.
30.
29. 28.
27.
26,
25. 24.
20.
22.
21. 20. 19. 18.
17.
16. 15. 14. 13. 12. 11. 10.
9. 8. 7. 6. 5.
4.
2.
1. Now for what you've all been waiting for.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Good morning, good day, good evening, good night, good whatever it is where you are, and hello to everybody who watches this in the future. Well, I hope we get some people to show up. This is a special little show, and to bring up my first guest ever, Andy Masterson. Well, I'm not sure if we have anyone to say hi to, but I'm sure people will watch this in the replay.
That's all right. Whoever finds it out there forever. As they say, the internet is forever.
Yep. So, to get me started, I usually do a little intro song. So, I'll do my little intro song. Every morning, every evening, ain't we got fun? Not much money, oh, but honey, ain't we got fun? The rent's unpaid, dear, we haven't a bus. The smiles were made, dear, for people like us. In winter, in the summer, don't we have fun? Times are bumming, getting bummer, still we have fun. There's nothing sure, the rich get rich and the poor get poor. In the meantime, in between time, ain't we got fun? Tax collectors getting closer, still we have fun. Twins and cares, dear, come in pairs, dear, don't we have fun? We've only started, no, we're not downhearted. When I'm laid off, I'll be paid off, ain't we got fun? Landlord's mad and getting madder, ain't we got fun? Times are bad and getting badder, still we have fun. There's nothing sure, the rich get rich and the poor get poor. In the meantime, in between time, ain't we got fun? There we are.
God bless you. Every time I ever started singing, my children would yell at me, "Daddy, please stop."
Well, you actually have Doomcock to thank for the singing. I actually do singing throughout the show as to break up the segments, and that was actually inspired by Doomcock. And this whole actually he shows there's a lot of inspiration in from him, and that's why I decided to do one for his birthday tonight. Oh, and we got a person in the chat here. Yeah, Nemesis of Eden, hail and beautiful beginning. I hope you are doing well today. Yes, I am doing well. Well, so well, since we have my guest here, and I'm not sure how long you'll be able to stay for. I think you said maybe about 40, 45 minutes. You said?
Yeah, about that. I'm supposed to keep my daughter at the gym because, well, you got to stay healthy.
All right, so I won't keep you too long then. So we'll just jump into your segment here so we can get into it. That'll be better if I do that.
Yeah, I haven't mastered all that stuff with doing live streams and stuff. That's tricky.
Yeah, I'm a one-man show too. So this was your video. So and Master and his son, he does creates toys or these dolls. What would you call that?
Oh, technically they're action figures because they've got posability.
Okay, so
lots of articulation.
And the first one, apparently one of the first ones he did here was the Doomcock doll here. So we have the sculpted head. It's I guess that's the clay sculpting for the head.
Yeah.
All right. So from there, of course, you make the mold with the plastic. I guess it's a plastic mold or
No, that's silicone. That's silicone
silicone
mold
mold.
rubber.
Okay, and then from there it's the plastic like that fills it, right?
Yeah. So what you do, and you can do this with a lot of different things. And what I usually do on my channel is to try and encourage people to find their own, create their own collectibles, make their own things. You don't have to wait for a big company to go and make things. There's so many options out there for people to do, and a little bit of education goes a long way, and it's really not that hard. There's some tricks like Gary has really helped me a lot with refining my processes down. When I first started doing this, I was following basic instructions off of uh, Star Wars forum pages and things, and I got the general idea about how to make the molds and so forth. And they came out pretty good, but ever since I've learned some of the tricks like degassing the molds, uh, putting your casting resin into a pressure pot as it's curing, it has made everything come out so much better. There's a lot of little tricks that go along with this, but the most important thing is that if you see something out there you like, some of these things can get very, very expensive, and not
Oh yeah,
everybody's got the
I've
budget.
looked.
Yeah, not everybody's got the budget for it. So what I try to do is give people an alternative. So instead of spending $300 for a Hot Toys collectible, you can put something together yourself. You can make your own, and you can populate your shelf and your display with background characters depending upon what it is. Now the Doomcock figure, I had been, I discovered him quite by accident. I was up until that point, I thought that it was pretty much just YouTube was for how-to videos and music, and then this guy pops up on autoplay, and he's talking about some of the decline of the franchises we've loved, and I'm like, well, I
Yeah.
could listen to this a little bit, and I was listening to one of his broadcasts, and they were talking about how much they collected action figures. So I'd been making these for several years just for family, friends, and my own collections. My son's Star Wars collection when he was playing with the Hasbro figures, and I figured, you know what, let me try this. So I sculpted a little bit and have gotten better and better over the years of practice. So when Doomcock said he would how much he loved action figures, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to see if I can make one of these. I'm going to sit down and try and figure this out. So I took a lot of screenshots. Now, the problem with working off of screenshots is that there's a fisheye effect that happens with the
Oh
camera,
yeah.
and it distorts things a bit. So you're working with that, and you're trying to find angles and everything, and it's really, really tricky. So I did the best I could and worked through things, and yeah, I did a pretty decent sculpt on it. And the part that was going to be the hardest was the tunic, and I had no idea. I don't know how to embroider or anything like that. And I'm looking at this, I'm trying to figure out how I can get
So
it
it's
done.
the
And
tunic there. There
yeah,
we
there
are.
it is. So my wife got me this Cricut machine, and I drew out the design. I did it on one side, and then just copied it over in the flipped it in the program, and then just used the Cricut to print it out of vinyl, and then ironed that on. And then I found these little tiny metal rivets, and this is the real torturous part of these. Each one of these things takes about 12 hours to make. It's really, really time consuming. You got to sit there with each one by hand and set each of these rivets in where they belong. And there's 3 different size rivets that go onto it too, so it's a little bit tricky. But you get that on there, do the sewing, put the snaps on, and so forth. But it's been a lot of fun, and I just mailed the thing off to him. I wasn't even like, didn't enclose a note or anything. He just put it on there and was like, he was quite surprised to find this and had no idea who I was. So
I certainly would be surprised as well.
yeah, it was fun. And I was at the gym, and I heard him. would get to the gym about 8:30 and on Friday night, and I'm working out, and all of a sudden I hear him talking about, like, you guys want to see the Doomcock figure. I'm like, oh, cool. And what I did was I made a little bad robot guy, and so the first one that I did was just hollow, made out of styrene, and but I put a little. You get these little tea lights, these battery operated tea lights from the dollar store, and they flicker. So I put that inside his head, so there were little knuckle marks all over him, and yeah, the lights were flickering, but there was a little tiny, little crude switch on the back. So I sent him in the super chat to let him know that his bad robot actually lights up. So then he brought me on the show, and I'm sitting there talking to Tom, and I'm talking to that umbrella guy was on there that night, and the rest, as you say, is history. But that's what my goal with people is, to try and get them to try your hand at creating things.
That's great.
Yeah, it's just like YouTube. I mean, everybody, you get a microphone, you put your thoughts out there, and like, if even if it never gravitates, I always look at these things too, because it's sort of like a fingerprint in history. Like, it's going to be there forever. So like, someone can come, 100 years from now and find some of these video clips and say, hey, well, look at this, is pretty cool. And God knows where this stuff is going to go.
Yeah, you never know.
There's a piece of you out there somewhere floating around in the electronic internet.
Yeah, so your a lot of your videos cover like tutorials on how to do some of this stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. I'll
Okay,
do
cool.
reviews, a lot of different body types, new releases that are coming out.
That's the body that you used as the base.
Yeah, now this is when I first started doing this, your options for bodies was very, very limited. I started off with Hasbro bodies, and they're really tricky to work with because it's designed for things not to come off. Like, they're designed for kids to play with. Kids are going to be pretty rough, and you got to make sure they don't choke on things. So when I first got into more of the higher end, it was Sideshow, and the head sculpts were, by today's standards, they're very, very dated. If you look at a Hot Toys sculpture now, and I've done this with people, I've brought up pictures of a Hot Toys head sculpture and shown it to people, and they are amazed that it's actually a sculpture and not the actual person. Now, I think a lot of this stuff is done with 3D rendering now, and probably a lot of AI these days. But
yeah, from my understanding, they'll like scan the person's face.
yeah, there is a lot of that, but there's some tweaking that goes on with it. There's a program called ZBrush that a lot of these guys use, and I've toyed around with the idea of actually learning how to use it, but most of the time I'm just sitting with a piece of clay, doing it old school, which is probably a little bit harder, because you can, when you're doing things in a computer program, you can pull reference photos up of your subject right next to your image, and it's going to come out the same way. But by hand, you've got to eyeball everything, which is pretty challenging, but it's very rewarding when you see somebody have such an incredible reaction from something you've created for them. It's something that's it's just a little different level of special. It's not just something that's, it's not an autograph. It's not like it's something that you can actually hold. It's like, wow, it's a piece of art, but you can do different things with it. Now, these bodies, what happens when you do business in China? You'll design your body, you'll work out all the specs, get the engineering done. You take your design and you go to a company in China, and they will manufacture your product, your body type. And then, after they fulfill your order and charge you for it, they take your molds and they take the same materials, and they make several million of their own copies and sell them on the black market, which is okay in my situation, because it makes these base bodies very, very cheap. When I'm doing a commission, like the Doomcock figures are very expensive, because it takes so long for me to make them, and it's just me doing it and trying to set 125 rivets on each jacket. by hand, it's pretty labor
Yeah, that's definitely going to be labor intensive.
So it's but that's the base body. And that's a duplicate of a Hot Toys body. So it's got
Okay.
like 32 points of articulation. They hold position really well. You can just pose them. A lot of them, it's a good idea to get a stand for them because over time they could loosen up a little bit. They could slip, fall, and you don't
Mm,
want these things to fall and chip.
yeah.
Now the heads that I make are made out of cast resin and painted up. Sometimes what I'll do is cast the head into a mold that has mica powder in it that gives it sort of a metallic effect to it. Uh,
Yeah.
Doomcock's helmet varies greatly on what kind of lighting there is on it.
Yeah.
So
I noticed
that's
in some of his later ones, the color of the tunic changed too.
yeah, it's actually a red like this one here is made, um, but under the lights that he's using with the keys, it comes out purple. But in,
Yeah.
in reality, it's actually red with gold
Yeah.
piping.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure the older videos are probably more accurate color to the color.
Yeah, yeah, but it's sort of like the texture is pretty interesting too. So, but uh, it's definitely unique in the appearance of it.
See the full thing right there.
Yeah. So he's got like his jacket. He's got these German officer boots. The original one I did, I made the tunic actually a little too short. So in the subsequent ones, I've corrected that,
Mm,
and I've also sent him various iterations of his figure. Now, what I've done since then, I've gotten more accurate source photos of his helmet that he sent me, and so I could do a better sculpture. And
ah.
so the new and improved sculpture, but Doomcock is very very sentimental. He was like, "Well, I can't throw this out," so I made a little bust body for it, and so that the helmet can sit on top of the bust. So he's got a miniature bust of himself there with the old helmet on it. So it's saved for posterity.
I think I'd probably do the same thing if I was him.
It's really neat. It's like he's done a great thing with um, creating some of these characters, and he's partnered up with some great people making his backgrounds and all that stuff that you actually see there is actually physically made. There is nothing that's computer generated or all of the materials, all of the set pieces. They're physically real, and they're all shot in 4K. So everything that you see on his screen, it actually exists. There's actual physical pieces like that.
Cool. We'll close this thing out. So let's see here. Yeah, your heads are so full of detail. Well, you have an incredible eye in hand and for skull sculpting, as well as your costume. The Doom Club those looks intense. Yep, I'm sure
Yeah,
it was.
it's tricky. It's very it's an interesting process you go through. Like I never knew how to sew anything. So my daughter, she was in a Girl Scout troop, and all the Girl Scouts had American Girl dolls. So of course she had to have an American Girl doll.
No, of course.
Well, these things are crazy expensive. They're like $130 a piece, and all the outfits are you could buy human clothes for the price of the outfits for American Girl.
Yeah.
So I learned how to sew so I could make sure that she had some cool things, and I built all the
That's
furniture
awesome.
and built a doll house for her, and then I did all the stuff for my son with Star Wars and made an entire Jabba the Hutt play set. It had different levels. He took it from the layout of the Battlefronts game. So when he had the little 3 3/4 figures, um, I made it so that you could go through Jabba's palace, and inside he had the throne room. We had it elevated so that inside the throne room was a trap door he could fall, and he had his big rancor underneath it. It was actually pretty impressive the way we did it. But that was how I got my start sewing. I never had any idea how to actually do sewing, so that was a learning experience. Thank God for YouTube because it taught me a lot. A lot of this stuff is like because what happens for human size clothing it doesn't actually work in 6 scale.
Mm,
That's what this is. Now there's a lot of things going on now with the rise in 3D printing. There's 1/12 scale is becoming very big. So 6 scale is a 12-inch figure, 12th scale is a 6-inch figure, and the little 3 3/4 guys, they're a 1/18 scale figure. So I tend to work in the 6 scale figures because it's fun. It's like you have a lot of artistic ability with it. You're kind of limited on space because it does take up a lot of room in a display. The smaller scale things you can fit more in, you can do more things with it. But this to me, has the greatest detail. So I'll work on that. And then you have people will come along, and I've got a limited number of Doomcock figures that I've made out there that have. So when I first did this, there were a whole lot of people asking me that they wanted to get in on this. They wanted a Doomcock figure, and it was sort of a problem because, like, you never know who you're dealing with. You never know, somebody is like your friend today, and but maybe they don't like
Yeah.
you tomorrow, or maybe they're just pretending because they really hate your guts, and they want to take your likeness and they want to bend it over a barrel and have the Ken doll behind it doing whatever. So I said to him, like, well, how about if we do this? Anybody who's been an Archvillain member for 6 months or longer, so they're already $150 into his memberships, and they're going to shell out another $200 some for this action figure. That's probably somebody who's pretty dedicated to.
Yeah, I'd say so.
They've committed to this quite a bit. They don't want to just defile your likeness. So, but we've done all kinds of things. I've got Skull of Calderon. He's inside of his little thing here, and I've got a Sabu around here. I took a Safari Limited squirrel, and I carved out and made him little saber teeth on it, and made a mold out of him and put them out there. So we've done. The Harvey is a you can pick up the 12-inch Harvey
Yeah,
plushie.
I've actually got one of those.
Yeah, so I made fezzes for them so that they look authentic.
I dressed mine in baby clothes for a gag.
Yeah, right now I'm setting up a Star Wars theme. I'm gonna put Harvey as the Emperor. He's gonna have the little hooded robe on, and for good effect. But yeah, I've made Larry Dracula. I've made him a Hank Hill figure. Let's see what else. I made him a Frankie Doomcock. Let's see what else is there. I think there's something else that I made for him too, but I can't remember offhand. But just knowing that, like, there's these things out there that give people so much pleasure is pretty rewarding. That you can brighten up somebody's day with it.
Yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, it's Mind Finished Ready. Hello, I'm glad to have you here. We're just kind of covering over some of the artwork that Andy Masterson makes with his action figures.
Yeah, my goal is to introduce a lot of people to the hobby. It's a shame because so many of our franchises that we've loved so much have been ruined to the point where people don't even want to have the memorabilia around. I've talked to people who've they've collected for years, and they've disposed of their entire collection because of what Disney's
Yeah, I've
done
heard
or
of a
whatever.
few people. Yeah, also like with Hasbro right now, they're really cheaping out on their stuff.
Yeah.
You buy a box, you can't even see what you're getting, and you open it, it's broken.
Well, Hasbro they've really been put through the ringer because Disney, with Marvel and Star Wars, has made so many flops that the customer base isn't there. There's a lot of these things sitting on shelves. So that's millions and millions of dollars lost to Hasbro because they've had to produce these things. And they're counting on Disney and Marvel and Star Wars to make a good quality product so that people will want to get the collectibles for it. And with the rise of YouTube in popularity, it's been people's tastes have changed. So now instead of sitting there watching movies all day long, there's people that are watching YouTubers, and I've actually I have a Tom Connors figure commission that I'm making right now. I've got several Mexican Iron Man figures I've sold just because they have their own followings, and people want to have Culture Casino's another one that I've had requests for. So it's you get these fellows out there; they're the new entertainment, and people are very happy to have their friends sitting on a shelf behind them where they can sit there and they can like check out this is what they're investing a lot of their time and money in. If you sit on some of these chats and you see some of the super chats people send in, it's pretty pricey. So they're dedicating a lot of their efforts and the riches into these creators. So that's become the new fandom, if you will. It's what people are getting into, and it's a shame that we are where we're at with this, because it's I think it's pretty cool if you can do some mixing and matching. So say you have a Star Wars universe, but what I want to do is I want to put Doomcock standing there next to Darth Vader, and there's only I can do that because I've got a Doomcock figure, I've got a Darth Vader figure, and I can have them dueling it out. I could put dress Doomcock up in a tuxedo and have him standing next to Sean Connery's Bond. It's limitless what you can do with and that's what I like about action figures, more so than statues and stationary products and even artwork, because I can change this display up whenever I want. I can, and this goes for everybody, because you have so many things available to you. With 3D printing, you can go on Etsy or Pinterest and you can find stores that actually sell these products that you can get, and you can set it up in on your shelving units. There are these IKEA sells these detolf shelves, which are sort of like glass shelving units, and people will set up like diorama backgrounds, but it's either just photos or some of it's some 3D printed pieces, and they'll put it in the back there. So you've actually got a little scene going on, kind of like this setup here, and they can change it up. They can make things a little bit different. Is what I'm trying to do with people, is get them creative enough to say, what, I want to put my things together. I want to kit bash some stuff together so that I can take things, and let's say you're a fan of DC Comics, and maybe you like some elements of the Snyderverse, maybe you like some elements of the other things. You could take Christian Bale's Batman, or you could take a Ben Affleck Batman and stick him with a Christopher Reeve Superman. You could take a Linda Carter or a Gal Gadot Wonder Woman. You could get the figures that are made for the Teen Titans TV show, which came out really good. The figures anyway. You could put them next to your Batman, Superman, and you could create your own example of a DC lineup, and you don't have to be relying on what Hot Toys is produced and how much that's going to cost you. I see some of these people. I mean, if you figure that each Hot Toys figure is running about $300 with shipping these days, and you see a shelf full, these are several $1,000s in displays that people are building. So they'll put these things on there, and that's beyond the price range of a lot of people. So what I try to do is show people here, you have alternatives. There are things you can do, but you just got to learn to be crafty a little bit, learn how to do some things, or hook up with somebody that knows how to do these things. So if you can do one part, somebody else can do another part. You can work on that, and say somebody who sews, and somebody else who paints, and maybe somebody else that can build backgrounds and dioramas, and you all team up together and say there's 3 of us, and we're going to buy 3 of these heads. I'm going to send them over here to Bob. He's going to paint them. I'm going to send them over here to Joe. He's going to build the backgrounds for them. I'm going to send this over here to Tom, and he's going to do all the sewing. And now everybody's got an action figure there, and it's a fraction of the price that it would cost if you bought one from Hot Toys. Now you'll have people that'll be like, well, it's not officially Hot Toys. No.
Yeah.
To which my answer is like, there's the door. You can leave, because it's my collection, and it's not here to impress anybody but me. and it doesn't have to be top of the line or the best. As long as I enjoy it, that's all that matters. And that's the cool thing about this is, if you can go and you make your display and you put up original trilogy Star Wars, you can just sit there and look at your shelves, move your figures around, put in different poses, and you never have to acknowledge that Disney bought Star Wars. You can pretend that they never made a horrible sequel trilogy. You can do all these things, and it's yours, and you can set it up whatever way you want, which is a real freedom in it. Because, but again, it takes a little bit of practice in getting into the process. If you look on eBay, you can find a lot of things very, very cheap on eBay. A lot of copies of things. There's a lot of people that will do. There's a lot of people doing their own independent 3D sculptures, 3D printed sculptures, and you can pick them up relatively cheap for usually under $50. You can get a decent head. What's your favorite franchise? I know you're talking
Ghostbusters.
about okay, Ghostbusters. So right now, there's the best Ghostbusters figures out there in 6 scale are from a company called Blitzway, and what they did, I think it was a mistake. They put them out as a 4-pack. So this thing was about $1,000 for the 4-pack, but the craftsmanship is incredible. I have a friend of mine. He bought their Ecto 1. The thing is 4 feet long, and it fits all the figures inside of it. They all have battery operated proton packs. Now, they're very, very expensive, but there's another company, I think it's Present Toys, that just came out with their own version of Ghostbusters figures. Now, they're not officially licensed or anything, but they don't look quite as good, but they are significantly cheaper. So if you missed the first one, you could pick these up. One thing I will caution people with, though, if you're looking to get into this kind of collecting and you see a figure come out, especially if it's something from Marvel or DC or Star Wars, something like that, chances are there's going to be multiple versions of this thing that come out. My first dip into the Hot Toys universe was when Captain America, the First Avenger, came out. And I told myself, all right, well, I'm just going to buy one of these and that'll be it. So I bought the rescue version, and I bought the World War II combat version, the tactical suit, and I bought the Red Skull figure. And so there I was at about $700 in action figures sitting on my shelf because I was only going to buy one. But with every subsequent Captain America movie and Avengers movie, Captain America got a new outfit. I'm like, wow, that one looks a little bit better. And one of the things about it is that the scale is, so in 6 scale, it's saying that each figure is about 6 foot tall. So if you put the head on, it's going to be about 12 inches tall. So each foot is 2 inches. So because everybody's different height, for example, I've got Rancor Steve here, and I put him next to Gary. It's going to be a significant height difference, but it's pretty realistic. It's like you stick the two of them together. Steve's about 5'5". Gary's about 6 foot. So
that's actually pretty accurate then.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty good balance there. So when they did their first Captain America figures, or they did the first Avengers figures, Tony Stark was as tall as the Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth figures. Now they said, this isn't going to work here, so they made a larger, more muscular Thor figure. They made a taller Captain America figure. Thor was the tallest. Captain America was a little bit shorter, but they made Tony Stark on the smaller figure, so that would fit in there about 5'8", 5'9", which is great because in the old days of this stuff, every G.I. Joe figure was the exact same height. Everybody was the same.
In fact,
so
you could actually. So I knew some people who took the screw out and mixed and matched their own.
Yeah, and that's what you want to do is to customize your set so that when you do these things, it's it's unique the way you want it to be. So As time went on, they refined the Captain America figure, so now I had to get myself a more up to date one. So I bought the Civil War one, and then when the Endgame one, I got that because that's more of the definitive, because it sort of has the chainmail figure,
Yeah.
chainmail armor on it. But it's all a matter of choice. I know a lot of people that there's a company now called Hano Toys that's making comic accurate 6 scale figures, and they're relatively cheap. They just put out a Wolverine figure, a couple. I think there's 3 Wolverine figures they've done. The first one was $160, which for 6 scale figures is actually pretty cheap. And you want to think to yourself, like, there's going to be people who say these are toys, they're collectibles. You can't play with these things; they're fragile. If you give them to a kid, you might as well kiss it goodbye because
Yeah.
they will break it. But it's a collectible, so you take these and you can put it in different positions. But they've got a Magneto they've done. They did a black suit Spider-Man with the white outfit on it, but it's a higher quality body, more posability, and things like that. So when you get into this hobby, it's pretty open-ended because you can go as deep or as shallow as you want. If you just want to get a couple figures that you like, although be warned, it is pretty addictive because once you start and you see it there, you know what? But I need this to go with
Hey,
that.
I can stop right after the next one.
Yeah, it's a little like crack. It's very
Well, I see we're almost a step out of time for you here,
yeah.
so
So,
I should probably
but
get into
anyway,
my next segments anyway.
yeah. Well, that I hope that helps people as they're looking to get into this
Yeah,
thing.
and
And
I put the link to your channel there
cool.
in the
Thanks very
chat
much.
there.
Alrighty then.
So
Well, I will. Thanks for having me on. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you for coming.
And
That was
hopefully it'll give your audience a little bit of insight if they want to get
yeah.
started collecting, and they can start making their own things. I would recommend watch tutorial videos and see some things, because you'll find that there's a lot of things that you can do that are easier than you think. So give it a shot.
Hey, oh, thank you for showing me.
All right. Well, I'm going to get rolling. I'm going to get myself to the gym and keep my heart going.
See
Thanks
you
again
later.
for having me, and I will probably see you on Wednesday night or Friday.
Yep, you will.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Bye bye.
Bye. Okay. That, that was quite interesting. I really wasn't expecting to actually show up. I just gave him the link and was hoping for the best. But I guess we'll get into my next song here with the wheel. Putting on the Ritz, looks like. All right, we can do that one. Have you seen the well-to-do up upon the Lexington Avenue? On the famous thoroughfare, with their noses in there. High hats and narrow collars, wide spats at $15, spending every dime for a wonderful time. If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where Harlem flits? Putting on the Ritz, spangled down upon the Devi, of highbrows from down the levee, all misfits. Putting on the Ritz, that's where each and every Lulu Belle goes. Every Thursday evening with her swell bows, rubbing elbows, come with me and we'll attend their jubilee and see them spend their last 2 bits. Putting on the Ritz. If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where Harlem flits? Putting on the Ritz, spangled down upon the Devi, of highbrows from down the levee, all misfits. Putting on the Ritz, that's where each and every Lulu Belle goes. Every Thursday evening with her swell bows, rubbing elbows, come with me and we'll attend their jubilee and see them spend their last 2 bits. Putting on the Ritz, come with me and we'll attend their jubilee and see them spend their last 2 bits. Putting on the Ritz, putting on the Ritz. All right. You know, I should probably doing who it's birthday. He happy birthday for Doomcoxing is that's what this is about. So happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Doomcock. Happy birthday to you. May you have many more. Well, moving right along here. We should probably go into and I did a nice little presentation on James T. Kirk. A big inspiration into many. So, space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of Captain James T. Kirk, his 5-year mission and beyond, exploring strange new worlds, seeking out new life and new civilizations, boldly going where no man has gone before. In universe, Kirk was born March 22nd, 2233, in Riverside, Ohio, Earth. At 13, he survived the 2246 massacre in Tarsus is 4, being one of only 9 people who could identify Kodos, the executioner. Kirk became the only cadet to beat the no-win Kobayashi Maru test, reprogramming it to prove no fate is final. In his original pitch, Gene Roddenberry, the great bird of the universe, described the character first as Robert April, then Christopher Pike, each becoming separate characters in their own right. He was as the skipper, about 34, academy graduate, rank of captain, a space-aged Captain Horatio Hornblower, lean and capable, both mentally and physically. William Shatner was cast as Kirk after the original pilot, The Cage, aired. Shatner's charismatic, larger-than-life performance defined Kirk, though his theatrical style sometimes drew criticism. With Trek's second pilot, Where No Man Has Gone Before, Gene Roddenberry's optimistic vision of the future took flight, with Kirk commanding the USS Enterprise NCC-1701, tackling socio-political topics cleverly disguised as science fiction adventures. By 2265, Kirk took command of the Enterprise and led a historic 5-year exploratory mission into the unknown alongside his loyal crewmates and friends, Leonard Bones McCoy and his Vulcan and science officer Spock, making first contact with numerous species such as the Gorn, fighting Klingons, and making historic contact with the Romulan Empire, from thwarting doomsday machines to his many romantic conquests. Kirk's courage and heart shone through. Behind the camera, writers like Jean L. Kuhn and D.C. Fontana, who disguised the fact that she was a woman by using her initials instead of her name Dorothy Catherine to avoid prejudice, crafted Kirk as a decisive leader with moral complexity, balancing duty with compassion. Cancelled after only 3 seasons in 1969, the animated series in 1973 extended the adventures, though Roddenberry deemed it mostly non-canon. As the show found fame and syndication, Star Trek fan movement sparked a sci-fi revolution. In 2270, Kirk's success earned him a promotion to admiral, but his true love was the captain's chair. Exploiting a loophole, he reclaimed the retrofitted Enterprise and saved Earth from V'ger, a rogue Earth probe. In 2285, Khan, who went on his mission of vengeance against Kirk, using the Genesis device to try to kill him. Khan's attack cost Spock's life, leaving Kirk to mourn, with Spock's last words, "I have been and always shall be your friend. Live long and prosper." But Spock's body was reborn on the Genesis planet. The Klingons took notice of the Genesis planet, believing the Genesis device to be a weapon, and tried to claim it for themselves, killing Kirk's son, David Marcus. Kirk was forced to activate the auto-destruct on the Enterprise to stop the Klingons, destroying his beloved ship. On the way back home, when Kirk faced a new threat, a probe seeking extinct humpback whales. Time traveling back to 1986, in a stolen Klingon bird of prey, he saved Earth by bringing the whales back to the 23rd century. Upon returning, Kirk was faced with both praise and condemnation. He was reduced in rank back to captain and given command of a ship rechristened as the USS Enterprise A. The motion picture was met with mixed reviews. Star Trek's cult following earned it another movie in 1982, bringing back a fan favorite villain, Khan Noonien Singh. The success of the second movie spawned a series of movies that followed. In 1987, on a much needed vacation in Yosemite National Park, with Spock and McCoy, Kirk mused, "I know when I die, I will die alone." Singing "Row, row, row your boat" by a campfire, they bonded. Marshmallow? The events that followed may indeed be but a dream. Star Trek V, though considered one of the worst movies, gifted us Kirk's wisdom. You know that pain and guilt can't be taken away with a magic wand? That's the things we carry with us, the things that make us who we are. If we lose them, we lose ourselves. I don't want my pain taken away. I need my pain. In quotes like, what does God need with a starship? In 2293, with the Federation finally in talks with the Klingons to establish peace, Kirk was assigned to escort Chancellor Gorkin to Earth for a peace conference. Unable to let go of his hatred for Klingons, he confessed, "I've never trusted Klingons, and I never will. I could never forgive them for the death of my boy." These words were used to incriminate Kirk while he was framed for Gorkin's murder as part of a plot to assassinate the Federation president and keep the Federation and Klingons at war. Kirk escaped the Klingon prison planet in the nick of time and saved the Federation president and secured peace. With the Enterprise set to be decommissioned, Kirk gave one last order to set course. Second star to the right, straight on till morning. The Star Trek movies were hit or miss, with the impression that only the even number of movies were good. But it was time for Star Trek to pass the torch to the next generation. Getting 7 seasons and 4 movies, the first of which is Star Trek Generations, reuniting us with our captain one last time. In 2293, shortly after retirement, Kirk was a guest on the maiden voyage of the USS Enterprise B. The ship, unprepared, responded to a distress signal from the Eloran refugee ship, declining to take a command, and Kirk went to modify the ship's deflector after it got caught in the Nexus's gravimetric field. Thanks to Kirk, the Enterprise B escaped, but not before Kirk was swept away by the Nexus and presumed dead. In 2371, Jean-Luc Picard, trapped in the Nexus, enlisted Kirk to stop the scientist Soren's attempt to re-enter the Nexus. Kirk provided it a much-needed distraction so Picard could stop Soren from altering the Nexus's course. But a collapsing bridge claimed his life. A lackluster end for a legend. Many Star Trek fans, including Shatner himself, felt Kirk deserved more. As such, William Shatner helped co-write a number of novels which collectively he referred to as the Shatnerverse. While they are non-canon and some feel them to be self-aggrandizing, they do offer a more befitting fate for one of Star Trek's greatest captains. A series of fan-made shorts on YouTube by Otoy with the prefix title 7665874 culminated in the video titled Unification, which gave us a beautiful farewell to both Kirk and Spock. Shatner's theatrical style. Yes. Well, thank you for showing up. I hope you enjoyed what you saw, and maybe you can watch the rest of it in the replay. Well, moving right along. Let's see what the old wheel has for us to sing. Yeah. Hello, my baby! Alright. In fact, this is actually one I learned and because of Doomcock, so it's a pretty appropriate song to get. I've got a little baby, she's out of sight. I talk to her across the telephone. I haven't seen my honey, but she's mine, alright. So take my tip and leave this gal alone. Every single morning you'd hear me yell, "Hey Central, fix me up across the line." He connects me with my honey, then I ring the bell. And this is what I say to baby mine. Hello, my baby, hello, my honey, hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss by wire, baby, my heart's on fire. If you refuse me, honey, you lose me, then you'll be left alone. Oh, baby, telephone, tell me I'm your own. Hello, hello, baby. Hello, I guess you can't hear me. The wires must be crossed somewhere. Hello, hello, I said hello this morning through the phone. She said her name was Bess. Now I kind of know where I am at. I'm satisfied because I got my baby's dress here pasted in the lining of my hat. I'm mighty scared if wires get crossed, they'll separate me from my baby mine. Then some other fool will win her, and the game is lost. So each day I shout across the line. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss by wire. Baby, my heart's on fire. If you refuse me, honey, you lose me, then you'll be left alone. Oh, baby, telephone, and tell me I'm your own. Come on, baby. Well, we do have still quite a bit to cover, and so we should probably move right along here. To Blade Runner. If I can just get to the top here. All right. This is Sir Ridley Scott's favorite movie of his own. He regards the movie as probably his most personal and complete movie. The final cut released in 2007 is his favorite version of this movie, which is the version I happen to have, though I was a little disappointed to find out that they removed the monologue about his wife. Ridley Scott was dismayed to discover that American crews operate very differently from British ones. This was Scott's first American movie. It's the one he first filmed in America. In his native UK, Scott was primarily a camera operator and would always step behind in the camera to see through the viewfinder. This wasn't common practice in America and led to much tension between Scott and crew. Scott also frustrated cast and crew by continuously making changes is to sets and story. Screenwriter David Webb Peoples who was asked to rewrite the screenplay throughout the shot, often found that his rewrites were already obsolete by the time he had them in. Harrison Ford Hold on. Harrison Ford cited the movie is one of the most frustrating movie he's ever made, partly because the shoot was so grueling. And the changes in post-production and that were meant to help this movie his chances at the box office just didn't. He also famously he didn't get along with director Ridley Scott. According to producer Ellen Ladd Jr. In the book Future Noir, or The Making of Blade Runner, at one point Ford and Scott wouldn't speak to each other. By the end of the shoot, Ford was ready to kill Ridley. He would have taken him on if it hadn't been talked out of it. If he had been talked out of it. Ridley Scott asked Emmet Walsh if he could smoke for his character, something Walsh didn't do in real life, but agreed. After shooting several takes and Walsh started getting sick from the cigarettes, Walsh cracked. Ridley he should be hung by his balls off the ceiling. At the time, 20th Century Fox president and producer Ellen Ladd Jr. Witnessed it. It was so offended and had Walsh removed from another movie in which he was about to work with Michael Keaton. Philip K. Dick first came up with the idea for his novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the novel that was based off of. In 1962, when researching The Man in the High Castle, which deals with the Nazi conquering the planet in the 1940s. Dick had been granted access to archive World War II Gestapo documents in the University of California at Berkeley, and had come across diaries written by SS men stationed in the Poland, which he found almost unreadable in their casual cruelty and lack of human empathy. One sentence in particular troubled him. We are kept awake at night by the cries of starving children. Dick was so horrified by the sentence that he reasoned that there was obviously something wrong with the men and who wrote it. This led him to hypothesize that Nazism in general was a defective group mind, a mind so emotionally flawed that the world human and could not be applied to them. Their lack of empathy was so pronounced that Dick reasoned he couldn't be referred to as human beings, even though their outward appearance seemed to indicate that they were human. The novel sprang from this, and interestingly enough, it is now thought that some people are occupationally psychopaths due to low functioning amygdala, the fear center of the brain limbic system. In a famous incident, an author Philip K. Dick publicly denounced the movie after reading an early Hampton and Fancher script. In the February 15th, 1981 edition of Select TV Guide, Dick mocked the script, calling it Philip Marlowe meets the Stepford Wives. And Sir Ridley Scott's previous movie, Alien, and he then mailed a copy of the article to the Blade Runner production office. Ultimately, Dick would change his opinion about the project, largely due to the involvement of Jeffrey Walker, a publicist is for the Ladd ad company, who convinced his Warner Brother that Dick needed to be involved in the project. The original production company, the Filmway, Inc. had basically ignored Dick and kept him out of the loop. Bad move to keep the guy you're basing stuff off of out of the loop. Walker kept Dick abreast of all major developments behind the scenes, and Dick eventually became a supporter of the movie, even though Sir Ridley Scott and he did not meet until after principal photography had wrapped. Although Dick only saw the opening 20 minutes of footage prior to his death on March 2nd in 1982, he was extremely impressed. Obviously, he changed his mind. And he has been quoted by Paul Sampson as saying, it was my own interior world. Well, he caught it perfectly. And here is one shot of that world there. However, neither director nor Ridley Scott nor screenwriter David Webb Peoples had actually read Dick's novel. only original screenwriter Hampton Fancher had. Upon rewriting the script, Peoples had actually asked Scott if he should read the book, but Scott told him, "Don't bother," since the spirit of the book was already in Fincher's original draft. As if 2020 people still hadn't read it. While this movie is loosely based on Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the title comes from a book by Alan Norris. It's called The Blade Runner. William S. Burroughs wrote a screenplay based on the Norris book and the novelette titled Blade Runner, a movie. Sir Ridley Scott bought the rights to the title, but not the script, screenplay, nor the book. Burroughs' composition defines a Blade Runner as a person who sells illegal surgical instruments. The term replicant is used nowhere in Philip K. Dick's writing. The creature in the source novels are called androids or Andes. The movie he abandoned this term, fearing they would sound comical while spoken on screen. Replicant comes from screenwriter David Webb Peoples' daughter, Risa, who was studying microbiology and biochemistry. She introduced her father to the theory of replication, the process whereby cells are duplicated for cloning purposes. Director of photography Jordan Cornweth was just starting to really suffer from the Parkinson's disease that would ultimately kill him, and was often quite weak during the long days and nights of filming. By the end of the production, he was in a wheelchair, but according to director Sir Ridley Scott, Cornweth was a real trooper who did his work throughout the difficult shoot until the end. Sid Mead was originally hired to design vehicles and props. However, in his sketches, he included backgrounds for contextualization, such as streets and Rick Deckard's apartment. Director Sir Ridley Scott was so impressed with Mead's work that he asked him to work on designing the environment of his movie, as well as painting some of the mats. Mead, who was originally supposed to be hired for only a few days, he stayed on in the production for several weeks for a fee of 1,500 per day. This is one of the factors that caused this movie to go over budget. Sir Ridley Scott cast Rutger Hauer in the role of Roy Batty without meeting him. He had watched his performance in Turkish Delight, Katie T'Pel, and Soldier of Orange, and was so impressed he cast him immediately. However, for their first meeting, Hauer decided to play a joke on Scott, and he ended up wearing huge green sunglasses, pink satin pants, and a white sweater with an image of a fox on the front. According to producer executive Catherine Haber, when Scott saw how he literally turned white. Roy Batty, he's odd meld of father and fucker. After he said, "It's to Tyrell, I want my life." It's deliberate. Rutger Hauer was instructed to pronounce in such a way that it could be both fucker is to be used in the theatrical cut, and father in all versions of the movie for television. Rutger Hauer came up with many inventive ideas for his characterization, and like the moment where he grabs and fondles a dove. He also improvised the now iconic line, "All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain." He later chose "All Those Moments" and says the title of his autobiography. Originally, Roy Batty was to have a lengthy monologue just prior to his death. It was written by David Webb Peoples. Rucker Hauer felt the text was too technical. He had no bearing to the film and referred to locations with which the audience would be unfamiliar. They didn't help create that. This didn't help create any dynamic impact in the scene. In the night before filming, without Sir Ridley Scott's acknowledge, Hauer removed much of the monologue, kept the pieces as he liked, and then added the last two lines. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to die. After they finished filming the scene with Hauer's version, and the crew members applauded, and some of them were even moved to tears. The dove was supposed to release itself and fly away just after Batty's death. However, while filming the scene, the large amount of water used for rain soaked the dove, rendering it unable to fly. Instead, it simply hopped out of Batty's hand and then walked away. The flying dove shot, which you can see here, was added later, but it was not the one Roy he was seen holding. In real life, Rutger Hauer, who played Roy Batty, he died the same year as his character in 2019, though in a different month, June instead of November. In the narrated version. And Deckard said is his wife used to call him sushi, meaning cold fish. Sushi literally means sour taste, which ironically would be a colorful insult in itself. And usually he refers to the fermented rice, not the fish. However, in 1982, sushi was new to North America and was synonymous with raw fish. This line further makes little sense and says Deckard audibly he orders his noodles. And judging by the beer he orders, he is eating at a Chinese food bar. I think that the guy speaking in Chinese, he's taking his order, or we kind of tip that off. When Deckard stops Rachel from leaving his apartment, he pushes her away from him. The expression of pain and shock on her face was real. Sean Young said that Harrison Ford had difficulties playing in the scene with her and had pushed her too hard. However, when he saw how angry she was with him, he affectionately mooned her to break the ice. That must have been an interesting take. Rick Deckard only kills replicant women, Pris and Zora. Leon and Kowalski, he was killed by Rachel, and Roy Batty, he died is due to his inner termination date. Rachel's hairstyle and an elaborate wardrobe were inspired by Joan Crawford. So we can see the hairstyle and some of the clothing there with Joan Crawford's hair. Now I can see where they got the inspiration. The inception birth date of Pris, played by Daryl Hannah, a basic pleasure model, is Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2016. Way into the future. Joan Cassidy, who played Zora, was at ease with the snake around her neck because it was her own pet, a Burmese python named Darling. The scene where Zora crashes through the sheets of glass as was shot near the end of production. The budget and time were running out, so the scene had to be done quite hastily. This caused some continuity problems since it clearly wasn't Cassidy doing the scene. It's actually the stunt woman in Lee Pulford wearing a bad wig that someone just happened to bring into the set. For the final cut of the movie, one day entirely new shooting took place, which has become known as the green screen shot. New footage of Cassidy was shot in face replacement in technology. He was used to digitally replace Pulford's face with Cassidy's. Not only was Cassidy thrilled that Zora's costume still fit her, but the crew who were working on the shot were amazed at how easily Cassidy was able to exactly mimic her actions from 25 years before. The von Kampf test comes from Cambridge mathematician Alan Turing's 1951 paper, in which she proposes a test called the imitation game. That might finally settle the issue of machine intelligence. His story was told in the imitation game in 2014. Director Ridley Scott and director of photography Jordan Cornwell have achieved the famous shining eye effect by using a technique invented by Fritz Lang and his cinematographer Eugene in how am I going to pronounce it? Schuften, known as the Schuften process. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Light is bounced into the actor and actress's eye is off a piece of half mirrored glass that's mounted at a 45-degree angle to the camera. We might want to talk a little bit about Deckard's eyes glowing here. The Hades landscape in the opening shot was filmed using forced perspective. The miniature is only 13 feet deep and 18 feet wide. Hey, go check out Andy Masterson in tutorials. Maybe you can learn how to build some of your own sets. Smoke was used extensively to create a scene and sense of depth. And to keep the level of smoke consistent during shooting, a smoke detector was connected to a smoke generator, and would signal it when it had to produce more smoke. Almost 7 miles of fiber optic and over 2,000 lights were needed to illuminate the landscape. In order to film the entire sequence, it's the same piece of film was exposed multiple times, each time filming a different element in the shot, such as structure, light, fire, vehicles, etc. In order for all the techniques to match up, the exact camera movement had to be repeated with a motion-controlled camera up to 17 times. This put so much stress on the film that the special effects team would often find that the camera had ripped the film to shreds. Damn. Hell of a shot, though. Some of the Lord of Darkness' palace interior is from legend, most notably the huge and sprawling columns, were featured in this movie. As far as I can tell, it's these columns here that were in the movie Legend. And speaking about Legend, we got a little something we gotta cover here. The unicorn scene was cut from the original theatrical release, but was reinserted by Ridley Scott in the director's cut, and it's also in the final cut as well. It's a very important scene. There is a rumor that the original unicorn scene shot for the movie was lost, and stock footage from the movie Legend was used in its place. This is not the case. The original footage was found and cleaned up for the director's cut. And here is actually the proof of exactly that. If we zoom in on this clipboard, we see that it is indeed Blade Runner. So we zoom out, and that is indeed the shot that we see in the movie. So yes, the unicorn scene that we see in the movie is indeed the stuff that was filmed for Blade Runner. The movie suffered at the box office because it opened at the same time as E.T. the Extraterrestrial and The Thing, being suffered a similar fate due to the same reason. Although there was praise for the visual style, word of mouth about this movie, the slow pace, and bleak themes quickly caused a decrease in audience ratings. Both movies later reached cult status receiving critical praise. Just imagine yourself in 1982, going to the movies, and you have to pick between E.T., The Thing, or Blade Runner. I wish we had those kind of choices nowadays. I don't know about. Okay, so the trivia I was able to dig up said that the movie was dedicated in the memory of Sir Ridley Scott's brother Frank, who died in 1980 before this movie was made. However, the version I have says it's dedicated to the memory of Philip K. Dick, as we can see here. Maybe an earlier version has a different dedication. I'm not sure. Or maybe the trivia I found is wrong. I'm not really sure. I really don't know too much about hairstyles. Yes, unfortunately it is still going on today. It seems to be reignited. But one last thing on Blade Runner before I move on. And I believe that Deckard was indeed a replicant in the movie. Now, the character of Deckard in the books was obviously human, and there's strong indication in the sequel, 2049, in that Deckard is a human. But I think we need to look at the movie as a standalone thing. We can pretty much disregard the sequel, and the book is its own story as well, as the movie is only loosely based on the book. And of course, a few things that indicate this is obviously the unicorn dream. A very important point to note with this is that each replicant had its own animal theme connected to it. So Leon had the turtle or tortoise. Yes. Rachel had connection with the owl. Well, Pris had the connection with the raccoon in her makeup. Zora had connection with the snake. Roy Batty, he howls like a wolf near the end, and as he's chasing Deckard. And Deckard has a connection with a mythical animal, the unicorn. And of course, we have further indication with the origami indicating this. Some people would argue that this was to indicate to Rachel, but it makes much more sense if it's connected to Deckard, as we have the dream. That's the wrong link. Yeah, let me just pull something up here. Here is another big indicator. Come on. Okay. Now, this one I have to do visually. So Rachel drops a picture here of herself on a porch. This is obviously a fake photo. It was something that was possibly doctored here to fit. And from a slightly different angle, we see on Deckard's piano a photo of himself. It's kind of hard to see here with this reflection. But we see basically just about the same porch right there. Let's see if I can zoom in on that a little bit. Yeah, we have basically the same steps, same columns, just about. It's from a different angle, but we see the boy sitting standing on the porch. So, pretty good indication in that both photos were manufactured in a similar fashion and for similar memories. Finally, my last piece I want to point out is a bit of my own fan theory as to just why Roy would show mercy to Deckard in the first place. Now, looking in some of the behind the scenes, apparently the official reason in that Ridley Scott gave, he even mentioned this to Rutger Howard, was that he didn't have a reason. Roy Batty was just acting on impulse. However, looking at the scene, and we see him lift Deckard up and hold him, which definitely indicates intentionality in the actions. My little fan theory on this is that Roy, perhaps while he was with his creator, got a hold of some files on replicants and happened to notice Deckard was among them. Or perhaps being with his superior senses, as being a combat model, was able to detect very noticeable little differences that would indicate that Deckard was indeed a replicant, and just from mannerisms and whatnot. Because we know Roy shows no love for humans and has no interest with taking them out, especially someone like Deckard, who's already killed 2 replicants who he cares about. I suppose I should bring up the eyes as well. Yes, some people would argue that Deckard's eyes glowing in the shot where he's with Rachel was a mistake, with Harrison Ford getting in the shot in the wrong angle. But it's in the final little version, in final cut of this movie, and Ridley Scott could have easily edited it out, as we mentioned, and we saw that he went some painstaking efforts to get some of the shots that he got wrong right. And it would be a lot easier to edit a glowing eyes than to fix somebody's face onto into a different body. I should move on here. I should move right along here because I'm already looking like I'm going to be running late. So, moving on to the our X-1 in radio broadcast.
Countdown for blast off. X-5, 4, 3, 2, X-1, fire. From the far horizons of the unknown come transcribed tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in a million could-be years on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with Street and Smith, publishers of astounding science fiction, presents
X minus 1.
Tonight's story, The Outer Limit, by Graham Dorr. We go ahead now in time to 1965. We're on a vast concrete runway set in the desert of the Southwest. A giant metal ship stands before us, prow pointed for the stars. And in 5 minutes, the signal will flash, and it will tear up through the atmosphere to the outer limit.
Attention! Attention! Clear field for takeoff! Clear field!
5 minutes, Steve.
Right. Warm her up, Charlie.
Turn her over!
I want to go over procedure again, Steve.
Don't worry, I got it straight.
We'll just make sure.
Okay, I take her up on jets to 50,000, then I cut in the rocket.
No lower, or your tail blast will burn out 3 counties.
I climb 4 minutes on rockets, then start maneuver tests.
Remember that, no more than 4 minutes. The ship isn't like those strato rockets that you've been testing. She's the first one built for outer space. If she works, you can go clear to the moon.
If I'd have known, I'd have brought my toothbrush.
Not this trip. Now get this, Steve. You've got power there to clear the Earth's gravitational field, but remember, after you cut in the rockets, you've only got 10 minutes fuel. If you go beyond the outer limit and don't save fuel for the return, you won't get down again, ever. You'll drift out into space. Get that now. 10 minutes fuel.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, this project is a lot more important than that cosmic ray bomb that they're testing out in the Pacific tonight.
Well, the Security Commission brass doesn't think so. I don't see any undersecretaries under anything.
Don't you worry, Steve. In the long run, our ship will make the CR bomb back page stuff. But in the meantime, it's just as dangerous. Now, remember, half the principles in this ship are pure theory, slide rule stuff. If anything goes wrong, we may have to scrape you off the landscape with a soup spoon.
You have a charming sense of humor.
Now, here's what I'm getting at, Steve. We're risking your neck in this test. Anything blows, we don't want to have the next man pull the same boner. So keep your mic open. Keep talking. If anything goes wrong, we want to know exactly why. And we won't be able to ask you. Let us know before you pull every switch. Before you do anything. Got that? Even if you only have to blow your nose.
All right, get those fuel lines away!
Well, I guess that's about all, Steve.
Hey, that reminds me. If Mary calls, I'm just up on a milk run. I didn't tell her today was it.
How is Mary?
She's okay, but she's due about now, and I don't want her to get nervous.
Hey, I didn't know the baby was that close. Steve, you know, I really ought to be sending a single man on this job.
What, and cutting me out of a soft paycheck? Forget it, Hank. You know you can't get anybody else who can take 15 G's acceleration when those rockets cut in.
Yeah, I know. It's time, Steve.
Yeah. I'll see you later. Don't worry, Hank. I'll sweat for both of us. Button her up, Charlie. So long, Hank.
So long. We'll give you the light from control.
X2 JDR to control. Are you there yet, Hank?
Okay, Steve. I'm ready to go.
Mr. Hanson?
Ready on radar, Sergeant?
Check.
Mr. Hanson, you better see this.
What is it, Elsie?
Message center for Steve. Mrs. Weston just left for the hospital.
What? Hello, Steve.
Yeah.
Stand by a minute.
Shall I hold it up, Mr. Hanson?
Yes. No, wait just a minute. It's too late now.
You going to tell her?
Well, maybe he's got enough to worry about.
Hey, what's holding us up, Hank? Something on your mind?
No, there's nothing, Steve. I just wanted to say good luck. All right, Charlie. Give him the light. All right, Steve, I'm reading you clear.
I'm at 20,000. Airspeed 600. It's running fine. Soundproofing works. There's a 3-degree waiver in the AGY pressure.
Got that, Charlie?
Check. Dead center on radar, Mr. Hanson.
50,000 now. I'm cutting loose the port jet. Now the starboard. Now I'm off jets. Airspeed dropping. Now I'm opening the rocket ports. The switch sticks a little, Charlie. Oxyalcohol pressure 350. All right, now I'm advancing the ignition key. Here goes rocket 1.
Steve, you all right?
Yeah. Feels like somebody slugged me with a sledgehammer. Airspeed now 1,200. Here goes number 2. She's okay, Hank. Running like a Swiss watch. She's okay.
Hello, Steve. Elapsed rocket's time is now 4 minutes. What's your altitude? Over to you.
The speed 4,400, still climbing. Altitude 297 miles.
All right, you're at the outer limit. Level off for maneuver tests. You've got exactly 6 minutes fuel left.
I'm starting at 3-degree left bank. She's a little sluggish. There, it's all right. There's a low vibration somewhere. Maybe the cockpit cover. My view screen's a little fogged. Now I'm straightening out.
5 minutes fuel left.
Now I'm starting at 3-degree right. Hey, the bullet.
What's the matter? What's wrong?
There's something up here. Something shining.
What are you talking about?
There's something above me, Hank. I'm going to chase it.
Steve, you're at the outer limit now.
I can see it plain now.
Now, Steve, don't go any higher. You've only got 4 minutes left. You've only got...
I'm getting static. I can't hear you, Hank. It's dead ahead now. I'm going to make a pass at it and get a good look. Here goes. Hey, it's swerving to meet me. It's dead ahead now. Look out, it's dead ahead.
Hello, Steve. Steve, come in.
9 minutes fuel gone.
There's still no sign
Hello, Steve, what happened? Charlie, get the crash squad out. Tell the Army squadron to alert their search plane.
Right.
9.5 minutes gone.
Hello, Steve. Steve, listen to me. What's happened? Where the devil is he? Hello. Come in, Steve. Steve, come in. Hello, Steve. Hello, Steve.
10 minutes.
Steve.
That's the end of the fuel.
How long has it been now?
10 hours, Mr. Hanson.
Nothing more on radar, Sergeant?
Screen's blank.
Colonel Cthulhu called in. The search planes are back. Couldn't find anything.
Should be some trace.
He couldn't have bailed out, could he?
You don't hit the silk at 4,400 miles an hour. We either went past the outer limit and ran out of fuel, or something blew and we'll find the pieces scattered from here to the coast. Why does it have to be the best man? Always the best man. Charlie, we got to figure out what was wrong.
Right.
Something must have blown.
All right, I'll call him. Goodbye. Mr. Hanson, there's a message from Northside Hospital for Steve.
Well, what is it?
Mrs. Weston is fine. It's a boy.
Oh, thank you, Elsie. It's a boy, Charlie.
Yeah.
Fine. It's a boy. You didn't even know that she went to the hospital. How am I going to tell Mary that?
No, it wasn't your fault, Mr. Hanson. The ship was tested.
Yeah, we'll build another, and some other flying fool will shoot past the outer limit in space. Well, I'm getting old, Charlie. You can remember when I used to take them up myself. Now I've got to send other men.
Look, it's a job, Mr. Hanson.
Now I'm afraid. Every time I hear a jet go off, I jump. Every time I have to send somebody up on a new model, I start to sweat.
Mr. Hanson.
Yeah?
I think I've got something on the radar.
No flights scheduled in, are there, Elsie?
No, the whole day's cleared.
Coming in behind us. Here he comes over the building.
Yeah. What crazy jockey is buzzing the field like that? Is that an Army plane, Charlie?
No, I can't see. There he comes back again. I know that engine. Yes, it's Steve.
That's impossible.
Look, that's his ship.
It can't be.
He's circling back for landing.
Charlie, clear the field.
He's coming back in. Mr. Hanson, there's not another ship in the world that looks like that. I tell you, it's got to be Steve.
Thank God. All right, sit down over there, Steve. Quicker we get this done, the quicker you get over to see Mary and the baby. Elsie, give the order to check and refuel the rockets. I don't want anybody in here till I get Steve's reports. Bury any clothes. All right, Steve, let's have it. What the devil happened to you?
Hank, that cosmic ray bomb. Does it still go off tonight?
What are you talking about? Straighten out, Steve. Where have you been for the last 10 hours?
Listen, Hank, there's something more important.
Now, come on. I've got to get a report on the screen to Washington, so let's have it, will you? I've got to know how you stretched 10 minutes fuel to keep you in the air for 10 hours.
One thing before
now,
I talk...
look, Steve.
Will you have the Geiger men run over the ship before they refuel?
What did you run into?
So help me, Hank, I don't know. We better check and make sure it isn't radioactive.
Elsie, add a Geiger report on the standard check. Steve, maybe we better have the medics look you over, too.
No, I'm all right. They said I'd be all right.
Hey? Look, son, I know you've had a tough time, but we've had this field on the alert for 10 hours, boy. One of the Army boys cracked up looking for you, and he's hurt bad. So let's have the story. Let's have it straight.
I don't know how to tell you, Hank. Hank, I saw something up there.
At 300 miles?
I chased something up there, Hank, and I caught it.
Now, don't hand me that, Steve.
Listen! I was cruising along, just starting the right bank, when I spotted something. Must have been going about half my speed. It was, egg-shaped and smooth. I made a pass at it, and I came back for another, and then there was a humming sound.
Humming?
Sort of a vibration. And then I blacked out. I was headed straight for it at 4,400 miles an hour. I thought it was going to be the biggest smash since Hiroshima. And... Listen, Hank, is there a drink in that bottle?
Yeah, sure. Well? What happened?
I came to inside their ship.
Steve, this whole thing has been a devil of a strain on you. I'm going to call Major Donaldson from the Army base, ask him to sit in.
The psychiatrist? Yeah, that's a good idea. Let him run his tests. He'll tell you I'm not kidding. Because, Hank, unless I miss my guess, I've just been tipped off to the way the world ends.
You should be getting drowsy now. Count backwards from 10.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 6.
He's under. Now we attach the head plate electrodes and the cortical pickup. Look out for that wire, Mr. Hanson. 307 and 31.3. Now, throw that switch, Mr. Hanson. I have to start him off by suggestion. All right, Steve. You're in your ship now. You're in the rocket.
Rocket?
You're in the rocket. You're in the rocket, and you've just sighted something strange.
Now I'm starting at 3 degree right.
What's that?
Hey, there's something up there. Something shining.
His memory pattern. We're picking it up electronically.
Something above me, Hank. I'm going to chase it.
Pipe through the audio circuits.
Getting static. I can't hear you, Hank.
This is where we lost contact with him.
I'm going to make a pass at it. Hey, it's swerving to meet me. It's dead ahead now. Look out. It's dead ahead.
Now what?
This is where he blacked out. No telling how long, minutes or hours.
What's that noise?
I don't know.
Where? How did I get here? What? Who are you?
Is he seeing things?
Galactic Patrol. What's that?
But what are they saying, Steve? What are they saying?
It's about nuclear fission. They know about it. They know the danger of it. Long ago, they had wars that almost destroyed them. But finally, they learned. Now they've outlawed war.
Go on, Steve.
They patrol space. When their detector picks up an atomic explosion, they send a patrol. They've been observing Earth, and they found wars and rumors of wars.
What are they going to do?
They've quarantined us.
Quarantine?
They've isolated all Earth because we're infected with a communicable disease. Because we don't know how to control ourselves yet. Until we learn, we'll be a menace to the whole universe.
What is this nonsense?
Quiet. How are they going to do it, Steve?
Well, they've spread out a layer here of I don't know what to call it. It's all around the Earth. It's miles deep. And when there's an atomic explosion on Earth, the radioactive particles will drift up to this layer and and set off a chain reaction that'll go around the world in microseconds, and that's the end. Yeah? Yes, I understand. I've got to bring back the warning. You're going to put me back in my ship to bring the warning.
Now what?
Blacked out again. I guess that's all.
What does all that mean?
It's what he remembers.
You don't think that really happened?
No. Narco-psychometry circuits produce what he remembers. Just means that Steve believes this happened.
No, I don't like to see this. I've seen too many top pilots snap. Steve is the best I've known. How bad do you think he is?
Well, frankly, outside of the presence of this well-organized hallucination, there are no signs of unbalance. May not be too serious. If he had a more plausible story, I'd be inclined to believe it.
Warning. Hank.
It's all right, boy.
Did you hear it, Hank? Do you understand?
Oh, sure. We've been quarantined.
No. Let me give you something to make you sleep, Steve.
But don't you understand? They fixed it so that if we set off one more nuclear explosion, we will have had it.
Of course. Now, don't roll your sleeve down.
You don't believe me?
Now, take it easy, Steve.
But the test they're setting off the cosmic ray bomb, Hank, tonight. What time is it?
11:20.
It's scheduled for midnight. Hank, we've got to stop that bomb.
Let Donaldson give you the hypos.
You got to believe me. I saw them. I got the warning. If we touch off the Q-bomb tonight, we'll be the biggest galactic 4th of July of all time. The whole Earth will go up like a Roman candle. April 10th, 1965, the end.
Look, Steve, you better calm down now. Don't you want to see Mary and the baby? You've got a new son, remember?
That's just it. I want to see my son. I want him to live. If the bomb goes off, Hank, we got to stop it.
Mr. Hanson, I think we'd better get over to the base hospital.
Hank, you got to believe me.
Sure, Steve. Maybe there's something to it. Look, it's out of our hands now, Steve. I'll put it in a report, shove it into Washington in the morning.
In the morning? There won't be any morning, Hank. You've got to call Washington now. Get the head of the Security Commission and postpone the test.
Now, you know I can't do that. My neck would be out a mile. Besides, this is 1965, not 45. 20 countries have the atomic bomb now. What's the use of stopping just this one? The rest will keep right on popping them off.
Well, we'll have to call an international conference. Can't you understand, Hank? The first one that goes off finishes us. It's the end. They've given us the quarantine warning.
Steve, I think you'd better go with us to the base hospital.
Look, Steve, we can call up for a detail if we have to.
All right, I'll go with you. You don't need a straitjacket.
That's the way, Steve. You'll probably feel better by morning. Let's go.
Tomorrow I'll drive you over to the hospital to see Mary and the kid.
Yeah, sure.
Look at the ship under the floodlights. Pretty, huh? You'll be flying her again soon, Steve. Don't worry.
Yeah, I guess so. What's she doing out on the line? They refuel her?
Yeah, we got Clausewitz coming in tomorrow from Denver for another test. Figure we'd give you a day off.
That's good. That's fine.
Steve.
Hey, go.
Come on, Donaldson. Steve! Steve, come back here.
He's heading for the rocket.
That's crazy. Steve! Get down off of there, Steve. We can't get at him now. That hood is armor glass.
He's waving.
Good control. The radio. Come on.
I should have gotten help.
Come on. The radio's still hooked up. Hello, Steve.
Listen to me, Hank. You got to call Washington now.
Look, Steve, come out of the rocket.
I'll call my men, Hanson.
Don't try anything, Hank. They refueled the rocket for tomorrow.
Take it easy, Steve.
Listen, you know what'll happen if I fire the rocket tubes down here?
Steve, don't, please.
It'll burn out every building for 5 miles. All of us in one big blast.
What do you want, Steve?
You got to stop that bomb. You got to call Washington now.
They won't believe me.
You make that call or I cut in the rocket. I mean it, Hank. You hook my screen to yours in parallel. I want to see exactly what you're doing.
All right. Just don't fire those rockets.
Get going, Hank. You got 12 minutes to make that call and stop the bomb.
All right. I'm making the parallel hookup now. Donaldson, you think he'll really last?
I don't know. Up to now, I'd almost say it was normal, but this Hanson, he's liable to do anything.
Steve, there, you getting it on your screen?
Yeah. Now put that call through.
All right.
Operator.
Visit screen to Washington.
The visit screen circuits are busy, sir. If you try again in half an hour.
This is a Security Commission priority. Break in. Get me a line.
Just a moment, please.
10 minutes, Hank.
Listen, Steve, I'm trying.
Ready to take your call, sir.
Washington Security Commission 3. Urgent. I want Undersecretary Herbert Ames.
Washington 3. 1 moment, please.
Hurry, will you, please?
1 moment, please.
Chicago.
San Marco calling Washington Visitor Screen 3. Urgent.
Washington 3. 1 moment, please.
What time is it, Donaldson?
11:51.
Do you think he'll fire those rockets?
He might.
Washington.
Go ahead, San Marco.
Visitor Screen 3, Mr. Herbert Ames.
That is a coded exchange. I cannot accept your call without clearance.
Listen, Washington, put this through. This is Mr. Hanson of Hanson Rockets Incorporated at San Marco Air Base. This is a priority call. I'm coded.
1 moment, please. I will check your code number.
Get it through, Hank. That bomb goes off at 12.
Will you be reasonable, Steve?
Your call has cleared, San Marco. Washington Visitor Screen 3, Herbert Ames.
This is your call, sir.
Security Commission. Ames. Oh, hello, Hanson.
Listen, Ames. You've got to get me the chief.
You kidding? He's at the test control room.
Yes, I know, but get him for me.
Hey, what's up? You look lousy. Or is it a bad circuit?
There's no time, Ames. I've got to get him before the test. It's about the ray bomb.
I can't take the responsibility.
Get it through, Hank, or I blast.
Hey, what's going on there?
Ames, my project has a high enough rating. This is a priority A call.
What? Well, it's your neck. Okay, I'll try to get him for you. He's in the control room, though. You'll have to switch off your screen and speaker and go on earphones. Too much going on in there. Security, you know.
You hear that, Steve? I've got to cut the screen.
All right. 8 minutes, Hank.
Hello? Hello? Yes, sir. This is Hanson at San Marco. No, sir. Priority A request to cancel the bomb test. No, look, I'm serious. I'm deadly serious. We sent the X-2JTR up today to the outer limit, and we uncovered evidence. Yes, on the automatic instruments. What's that? No, this possible chain reaction. No, I can't tell you the whole story. There isn't time. Yes, I'll bring the readings into Washington in the morning. You've got to postpone the test till you see them. Yes, I understand that. I understand about the press. I'll take complete responsibility for this. What's that? Look, I've worked on contracts for the Commission for 10 years now. Yes, I have complete confidence in my information. You can record that. All right. I'll call you back immediately. Goodbye.
Hank?
He's agreed to cancel. The ray bomb won't go off.
Thank God.
All right, Steve. You can come down out of the ship.
There he comes. He's opening up.
All right, Steve. Come on down out of the ship.
Sure, Hank.
Hank, I was scared. I was plain scared.
All right, easy now. It's all over. Bomb won't go off.
Thank God. Hey, look. I want to see Mary and the baby. Can you get me transportation now?
Hey, wait a minute. It's almost 12. They won't let you in the hospital now.
I want to see the baby.
For sure you do, but you've been under strain. I've got a shot here for you, Steve. Give you a good night's sleep. All right. Roll up your sleeve.
Sure.
Now, that'll make you sleep. Sergeant will find you a bed.
Come on, Mr. Wilson. Well, good night, Hank. I am kind of beat. It's been a tough night.
Sure has. Thought for a minute he was going to blast those rockets and send us all to Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
Quite a stunt getting the ray bomb test called off.
It isn't called off.
But the call.
Ames couldn't get the chief. I was talking to a blank screen. Bomb goes off in a couple of minutes.
Oh. Poor Steve. He's one of the best.
He was the best. 1 in 10 million.
Some story of his, poor guy. For a while, he almost had me believing that quarantine. That's a very common delusion. The end of the world.
Last night, never saw the stars so bright.
Better be getting in. That wind is cold.
Bomb goes off in 30 seconds. Poor Steve.
You know, Hanson, there's just one thing.
Yeah?
It's outside my field, but I'm curious. How did he keep that ship in the air for 10 hours with only 10 minutes fuel?
Oh. Maybe there was something to his story. Well, I will put that up as a standalone on my channel at some point. But I figured I'd do one more song before we're moving on to the reading. This one was one I actually learned listening to Doomcock, but he usually only does the chorus. So I went out and started learning the whole song, and kind of got me in the habit of doing that. So it seems like an appropriate one to sing. Why do I do just as you say? Why must I always give you your way? Why do I sigh? Why don't I try to forget? It must have been that something lovers call fate kept on saying I had to wait. I saw them all, just couldn't fall till we met. It had to be you. It had to be you. I wandered around and finally found somebody who could make me be true and make me be blue and even be glad just to be sad thinking of you. Some others I've seen might never be mean, might never be cross or try to be boss, but they wouldn't do, for nobody else gave me a thrill. For all your faults, I love you still. It had to be you, wonderful you. It had to be you. Seems like dreams, like I always had, could be, should be, making me glad. Why am I blue? It's up to you to explain. Maybe, baby, I'll go away. And someday, some way, you'll come and say, it had to be you. It had to be you. I wandered around and finally found somebody who could make me be true and make me be blue and even be glad just to be sad thinking of you. Some others I've seen might never be mean, might never be cross or try to be boss, but they wouldn't do, for nobody else gave me a thrill. For all your faults, I love you still. It had to be you, wonderful you. It had to be you. All right. Well, seeing as we're already going to be running a little over time here, I should get it moving along here. myself a little hip to soothe my throat. Now, the Call of Cthulhu. Chapter 1, The Horror and Clay. The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. We live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of Black Sea is of infamy, and it's not meant that we should voyage far. The sciences, each straining in its own direction, have hitherto harmed us little. But some day, the pieces together of disassociated knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality, of our frightful position therein, and that we shall either go mad from the revelation or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a new dark age. Theosophists have guessed at the awesome grandeur of the cosmic cycle wherein our world and human race have transient incidents. They have hinted at strange survivals in terms which would freeze the blood, if not masked by a bland optimism. But it is not for them that there came the single glimpse of forbidden eons, which chills me with, and I think of it in madness. Maddens me when I dream of it. That glimpse, like all dread glimpses, is of truth, flashed out from an ancient, accidental piecing together of separated things. In this case, an old newspaper or item in the notes of a dead professor. I hope that no one else will accomplish this piecing out. Certainly, if I live, I shall never knowingly supply a link in so hideous a chain. And I think that the professor, too, intended to keep silent regarding the part he knew, and that he would have destroyed his nose had not sudden death seized him. My knowledge of the thing began in the winter of 1926 to 1927, and with the death of my granduncle, George Gamel Engel, Professor Emeritus of Semantic Languages in Brown University, Providence, Rhode Island. Professor Engel was widely known as an authority on ancient inscriptions and had frequently been resorted to by the heads of prominent museums, and so that his passing at the age of 92 may be recalled by many. Locally interest was intensified by the obscurity of the cause of death. The professor had been stricken whilst returning from the Newport boat, falling suddenly, as witnesses said, after having been jostled by a nautical looking well, I can't say it, a black person who had come from one of the queer dark quarters on the precipitous hillside, which formed the short cult from the waterfront to the decreases east home in Wilson Street. Physicians were unable to find any visible disorder but concluded after perplexed debate that some obscure lesion of the heart induced by the brisk ascent of so steep a hill by so elderly a man was responsible for the end. At the time, I saw no reason to dissent from the dictum, but laterally, I am inclined to wonder, and more than in wonder. As my granduncle here in the executor for he died a childless widow, where I was expected to go over his newspaper with some thoroughness. Yes, and for that purpose, move his entire set of files and boxes to my quarter in Boston. Much of the material which I correlated it will be later published by the American Archaeological Society. But this was one box which I found exceedingly puzzling, and which I felt held much averse from showing into other eyes. It had been locked, and I did not find the key till it occurred to me to examine the personal ring in which the professor carried always in his pocket. Then indeed I succeeded in opening it, but which I did not. I did it so seemed only to be confronted by a greater and more closely locked barrier. From what from what it could be the meaning of the queer clay bas relief, even the disjointed jottings, ramblings, and cuttings which I found. Had my uncle in his latter years become incredulous of the most superficial impostures? I resolved, officer, shout at the eccentric sculptor responsible for this apparent disturbance of an old man's peace of mind. The brief relief was a rough rectangle less than an inch thick and about 5 by 6 inches in area, obviously of modern in origin. Its designs, however, were far from modern in atmosphere and suggestion, for although the vagaries of Cubism and Futurism are many and wild, they do not often reproduce the cryptid irregularity which lurks in prehistoric writing. In writing of some kind, the bulk of these designs seem certainly to be, though my memory, despite much familiarity with the paper and collections of my uncle, will fail in any way to identify this particular species, or even hint at its remotest affiliations. Above these apparent and hieroglyphics was a figure of evidently a pictorial incident, and though an impressionistic execution and forbade a very clear idea of its nature, it seemed to be a sort of monster or symbol representing a monster of a form which only a diseased fancy could conceive. If I had that a somewhat exaggerant in imagination and yielded simulation in pictures of an octopus, a dragon, and a human caricature. I shall not be unfaithful to the spirit of the thing. A pulpy, tentacle old head, it had some mounted a grotesque and scaly body with rudimentary wings. But it was the general outline of the whole which made it most shockingly frightful. Behind the figure there was a vague suggestion of a cyclopean architectural background. The writing accompanying this oddity he was decided from a stack of press cuttings in Professor Engel's most recent hand, and made no pretence to literary style. What seemed to be the main document and was headed Cthulhu Cult. In character is painstakingly printed to avoid the erroneous reading of a word so unheard of. This manuscript was divided into two sections. is the first of which was headed in 1925 and Dream work of H.A. Wilcox, and 7 in Thompson and St. Providence, and R.I. And the second narrative of Inspector John L. Legras is 121 in Benville, St. New Orleans, in L.A. He at 1908 AAES. His main notes is on same and Prof. Webb's account. The other manuscript papers were all brief notes. Some of them accounts of the queer dreams of different persons. Some of them citations from theophysical books and some magazines, notably W. Scott Eliot's Atlantis and the Lost Lemura, and the rest is common hints on long surviving secrets associated with hidden in cults, which references these passages is in such mythological and anthropological source books as Fraser's Golden Bough and Miss Murray's Witch Cult in Western Europe. The cutting is largely alluded to mental illnesses and outbreaks of group folly or mania in the spring of 1925. The first half of the principal manuscript told a very peculiar tale. It appeared that on March 1st, 1925, a thin and dark man and of neurotic and excited aspect had called upon Professor Engel, bearing the singular clay bas relief, which was then exceedingly damp and fresh. His card bore the name of Henry Anthony Wilcox. My uncle had recognized him as the youngest son of an excited family. He's slightly known to him who had really been studying sculpture at the Rhode Island School of Design and living alone at the Florida building near the institution. Wilcox was a precocious youth of known genius, but great eccentricity, and had from childhood excited attention through the strange stories and odd dreams he was in the habit of relating. He called himself physically hypersensitive, but the staid folk of the ancient commercial city dismissed him as merely queer. Never mingling much with his kind, and he had dropped up gradually from social visibility and was now known only to a small group of aestheticists from other towns. Even in the Providence Art Club, anxious to preserve its conservatism, had found him quite hopeless. On the occasion of the visit, it ran in the professor's manuscript. The sculptor abruptly asked us for the benefit of his host's archaeological knowledge, identifying the hieroglyphs on the bas relief. He spoke in a dreamy, stilted manner, which suggested it posed an alienated sympathy. And my uncle showed some sharpness in replying, for the conspicuous freshness of the tablet implied kinship with anything but archaeology. Young Wilcox rejoined, which impressed my uncle enough to make him recall and record it verbatim, and was of a faintly poetic cast which must have typified his whole conversation, in which I have since found highly characteristic of him. He said, "It is new, indeed, for I made it last night in a dream of strange cities. And dreams are older than brooding terror, or the contemplative of Sphinx, or garden girdle old Babylon. I was then in It was then and that he began in that rambling tale which suddenly played upon the sleeping memory and one in the fevered interest of my uncle. There he had a slight earthquake tremor that at night before the most considerable felt in New England, and for some years Wilcox's imagination had been keenly affected. Upon retiring, he had an unprecedented dream of great cyclopean city, these of titan blocks and sky-flung monoliths, all dripping with green ooze and sinister with latent horror. Hieroglyphs had covered the walls and pillars. For some undetermined point below had come a voice that was not a voice, a chaotic sensation in which only fancy could transmute into sound, but which she attempted to render by the almost most unpronounceable jumble of letters. Cthulhu. This verbal jumble was the key to the recollection in which excited and disturbed Professor Engel. He questioned in the sculpture which scientific minuteness and study with almost frantic consistency the base relief on which the youth had found himself working. Children clad only in his night clothes, when walking had stolen bewildering over him. My uncle blamed him his old age. Wilcox afterwards said it for his slowness in recognizing both hieroglyphic and pictorial design, and many of his questions seemed highly out of place to his visitor, especially those which try to connect the latter with the strange cult or society. Wilcox could not understand, and the repeated promises of silence which he was offered in exchange for admission of membership in some widespread mystical or paganly religious body. When Professor Engel became convinced that the sculptor was indeed ignorant of any cult or system of cryptic lore, or he besieged his visitor with demands of future reports of dreams. This bore regular fruit from after the first interview. The manuscript records daily calls of the young man, and during which she related startling fragments of nocturnal imagery, whose burden was only some terrible cyclopean vista of dark and dripping stone, with subterraneans for her intelligence, and shouting monotonously in enigmatic sense impacts unscrupulably inscrutable will say as gibberish. The two sounds most frequently repeated as those was rendered by the letters Cthulhu and Ryla. On March 23rd, the manuscript had continued. Wilcox failed to appear. Inquiries at his quarters revealed that he had been stricken with an obscure sort of fever and taken into the home of his family in Waterman Street. He had cried out in the night, arousing several other artists in the building, and had manifested since then only alternations of unconsciousness and delirium. My uncle at once telephoned to the family, and from that time forward kept close watch of the case, calling often in at the Thayer Street office of Dr. Toby, whom he learned to be in charge. the youth's febrile mind, and apparently he was dwelling on strange things, and the doctor shuddered now and then, and as he spoke of them, they included not only the reception of what he had formerly dreamed, but touched wildly on a gigantic thing, miles high, which walked on lumbering about. He had no time fully he described this object, but occasional frantic word as repeated by Dr. Toby. He convinced the professor that it was that must be identical with the aimless monstrosity he had sought to depict in his dream sculpture. Reference to this object, like the doctor added, it was invariably a prelude to the young man's subsidence into lethargy. His temperature, oddly enough, was not greatly above of normal, but the whole condition was otherwise such as suggest as true fever rather than in mental disorder. On April 2nd, in about 3 p.m., every trace of Wilcox's malady he suddenly ceased. He sat upright in bed, astonished to find himself at home and completely ignorant of what had happened in dream or reality since the night of March 22nd. And pronounced well by his physician, he returned into his quarters in 3 days. But to Professor Engel, he was of no further assistance. All traces of strange dreaming had vanished with his recovery, and my uncle kept no record of his nigh thoughts after a week of pointless and irrelevant accounts of thought not fully usual visions. Here, the first part of the manuscript ended, but references to certain of the scattered notes gave me much material of thought. So much, in fact, that only the ingrained skepticism and then informing my philosophy can account of my continued distrust of the artist. The notes in question were of those described of the dreams of various persons covering in the same period at that in which young Wilcox had his strange visitations. My uncle, it seems, had quickly instituted a prodigious, prodigiously far-flung body of inquiry amongst nearly all the friends whom he could question and without an impertinence, asking for nightly reports of their dreams and the dates of any notable vision for some time past. The reception of his request seems to have been varied, but he must at the very least have received more responses than any ordinary man could have handled without a secretary. This original correspondence was not preserved, but his notes formed a thorough and really significant digest. Average people in society and business, New England's traditional salt of the earth, gave an almost completely negative result, though in scattered cases is uneasy, but formless nocturnal impressions appeared here and there. Although between March 22nd, 23rd, and April 2nd, the period of young Wilcox's delirium, scientific men were little more affected, though 4 cases of vague description suggest fugitive glimpses of strange landscapes, and in one case there is mention in the dread of something abnormal. It was from the artist and poet that the pertinent answers came, and I know that panic would have broken in loose had they been able to compare notes. as it was lacking in their original letters, as I half suspected the compiler of having asked the leading questions or of having edited the correspondence in corroboration of what he had lately resolved to see. That is why I continue to feel that Wilcox somehow cognizant of the old data which my uncle had possessed, this had been imposing on the veteran scientist. These responses is from aestheticist told aestheticist told a disturbing tale. From February 28th to April 2nd, a large proportion of them had dreamed in very bizarre things. The intensity of the dreams being measurably the stronger during in the period of the sculptor's delirium. Over a fourth of those who reported anything reported scenes and half sounds not unlike those which Wilcox had described. And some of the dreamers confessed acute fear of the gigantic, nameless thing invisible toward the last. One case which the note described with emphasis was very sad. The subject, the widely known architect, with leanings towards theosophy in occultism, and went violently insane on the date of young Wilcox's seizure, and expired several months later after incessant screaming to be saved from some escaped denizen of hell. Had my uncle referred to these cases as my name instead of merely by a number, I should have attempted some corroboration in personal investigation. But as it was, I succeeded in tracing down only a few. All of these, however, bore out the notes in full. Well, I have often wondered if all the objects of the professor's questioning felt as a puzzled as did this fraction. It is well that no explanation shall ever reach them. The press is cutting things as I have intimidated, touched on cases is a panic, mania, and eccentricity during the given period. Professor Engel must have employed a cutting bureau, for the number of extracts was tremendous, and the sources scattered throughout the globe. Here was a nocturnal suicide in London, and where a lone sleeper had leaped from the window after a shocking cry. Here, likewise, a rambling letter to the editor of a paper in South America, where a frantic deduces a dire feature from visions he had seen. A dispatch from California described as a theosophist his colony, in donning in white robes and masks as for some glorious fulfillment, which never arrives. Whilst items from India speak guardedly of serious native unrest toward the end of March. Voodoo orgy is multiplied in Haiti, in Africa. Outposts report ominous mutterings. American officers in the Philippines find in certain tribes is bothersome about this time. New York policemen are mobbed by hysterical living teens on the night of March 22nd to 23rd. The west of Ireland, too, is full of wild rumor and legendary and fantastic painter named Arbros Bonnet. It hangs a blasphemous dream landscape in the Paris Spring Salon of 1926. And so number numerous. So the recorded troubles insane in asylums, and that only a miracle can have stopped them. Medical frightened fraternity from noting strange parallels and drawing mystified conclusions. A weird bunch of cuttings, all odd, all told, old, and I can, in at this date, scarcely envisage is the callous is rationalism, with which I set them aside. But I was then convinced that young Wilcox had known when of the older matter is mentioned by the professor. That ends our first chapter of Call of Cthulhu. I'll cover the subsequent chapters in the next couple of shows. I hope you enjoy that reading. Now, let me try and get somebody to find the place to send you all over to. Let's see here. Well, I don't see the link to Data's show. I know he's supposed to be doing his Theta the Grid Cosmic Theta Theater tonight, so I'm not sure where he is. Well, I'll just post this link to his YouTube channel, so keep an eye out. See if he puts anything out. So it's time to end this. I've seen things people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shores of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the townhouse gate. All those memories will be lost in time, like tears in rain. Time to end.